welcome to the On the Whistle podcast. I'm your host, Zayn Nabi. Oh, no, sorry. I'm her host, Alasdair Howorth. Zayn Nabi is out of here. I've come to take his spot as the man in the chair. And Zayn Nabi has been, by democratic vote, kicked out of the On the Whistle podcast. I'm just kidding. He's unavailable today. But today I've got two special guests in his place. We've got the old boys, Courtney, Freese. Courtney, how are you doing?
Alasdair, lovely to be here. Lovely to see you again. I like the new hairstyle.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And our other man in the chair, Francis Nkwain. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well, my brother. Happy we finally got rid of Zayn. I think in the spirit of all things departed and all things new, like at Buckingham Palace, long live the new king.
Amen. Amen. I like that. Francis, you're getting a promotion soon. Don't worry. Well, boys, I mean, the big topic today is obviously you've got the World Cup around the corner, and this is the last international break before the World Cup. And, so we've got the African teams, the 5 African teams, Tunisia, Morocco, Senegal, Cameroon, and Ghana going to the World Cup, playing their final World Cup friendlies. And, I wanted to specifically talk about Ghana today because I think we've got a really interesting situation going on there. We've spoken to, friend of the pod, Chris Houghton, who's been at Ghana now as the director of football. And so we kind of had a bit of an insight into what Ghana is like as a football playing country. But obviously they had a really poor Africa Cup of Nations and they pulled off a miracle qualification for the World Cup over Nigeria. But now what they've done is, and we've probably seen it in, either through the news or through the memes, in that Ghana has had the best transfer window of anyone this summer because they've recruited a lot of players, including the big ones, Mohamed Salisu from Southampton. We've seen Tariq Lamptey from Brighton and Inaki Williams up front from Athletic Bilbao. And so, the question I really wanted to posit to you guys for this pod is, how do you feel of, a team like Ghana, a very historic team has done really well at the World Cup in the past, drafting in these players who previously haven't shown, particularly in Inaki Williams and Mohamed Salisu's case, have said that they didn't want to play for the Ghana national team or have at least shown disinterest. How do you feel now that they're joining kind of on the verge of the World Cup? Courtney, I'll come to you first as a former player. What does that make you feel? Are these guys being mercenaries, kind of just joining, or is there something more to it?
Alasdair, when the World Cup comes around, you normally get these stories. Sometimes it's not the players, sometimes it's just the managers. I could go back into previous World Cups where Sven-Göran Eriksson was the manager of Senegal for a period just for the World Cup. So I don't take this really personal. If it's going to help the game of Ghana, if it's going to help the team of Ghana, I can't really see a problem with it. Is it something I would have personally done as a manager? No. I would have kept with my team. My team has got me there. Obviously, injuries decide who goes and who does not go. But the benefits of the team doing so well is what I think the Ghana Federation is looking at here. So they bring in the best possible options for the team to do well. And off that, a lot of green shoots grow. The better the team does, the better the country does, the better the organization does. So I can see the forward thinking about it. So I'm actually not giving an answer. I'm almost like in a yes and no category at the moment.
You're being very diplomatic, Courtney. It's very unlike you. It's a shame. Yeah, I mean, Francis, I would say, especially, you coming from Cameroon, you have a horse in this race in the World Cup, and I would posit that question to you as well, as we've seen a lot of African players, who representing their country, who, maybe they're representing it through their parents, they're born and raised in Europe, a lot of them. And that's been an issue in the Cameroonian team in the past, is, that causing a bit of disharmony in the team, having players from different places. And, what's your read on the situation?
Well, I think the call to serve one's fatherland or motherland is exactly that. It's rarely actually a service to yourself. It's always a service to others. So whenever you connect with it is your choice. But just like Courtney said, I think it's always a risk, but a considered risk. And knowing Chris, for example, in Ghana, I know they have gone to great lengths to make sure that they're picking people who want to, at this point in time, whatever their motivation, but at this point in time, want to make a good showing of themselves for the sake of a cause that is hopefully bigger than themselves. But they're using these games more as the sifting grounds almost. So they're inviting people to come in to see how they also fit in with the others and go away and spend 5, 6 days together, and you see what chemistry can be built. One thing you want to avoid is building cliques and all that kind of stuff, and it's a risk you run. But I think, like with Cameroon, we had it and still have it at times. Even now, there's a call for some of our lads who are maybe haven't represented the country before to integrate the team because there's a belief they could lift the quality. Senegal have had similar calls, but the essential, like you pointed out at the very beginning, is like it's a cup competition, and it's at its best outcome, it's 7 games, and it's 7 games that could change the trajectory of a nation and definitely change the trajectory of an individual's careers. So they could look at it and just weigh it up and decide whether it works for them or not.
Do you guys think that this is enough time? I guess would be my next question is, 2 games, 1 international break. A lot of these players haven't had any time to, play for their national teams. Is this the time to introduce new players, or is it, we have to get the best in?
Well, if I may,
Sorry, my apologies, Francisco, sir.
no, I was just going to say, just as a continuation, I think the reason is they do it now because England, all countries always have a couple of wild cards, 2, 3 players that they introduce in these kind of tournaments. The difference this time around as well is also you're allowed to take 26 players to the World Cup. You have the opportunity to change 5 players during a game, so they can use more talent. So it will not hurt. And they also will have mini camps just before the World Cup begins with the option to review. I think it's up to 6 of the names that they will have in before the final list is actually sent in. So again, there's a chance for the technicians to take a look at them. They know that in November, they will have another opportunity to do this before the final list is sent in. But if they don't do it now, then when? It's not like we have loads of windows, or there have been previously. So
From my point of view, I think as a federation, they're looking for maximum impact here. And it's a short period of time. The legacy of what they can get out of having these players in the team far outweighs not having them in the team, number one. Number two, these are not bad players. Let's just look at Lamptey, who is at Brighton, am I correct? I think any team in the world having him at right back would jump for that prospect. He's going to go to a big team potentially next season. Wonderful player, number one. Very, very young, number two. So, it's not like they're drafting in a flat battery. These are good players, absolutely good players. So I just think it's a risk worth taking because of the impact when the team does very, very well, and there is a possibility of the team doing well. And so let's categorize what is doing well for Ghana. What is doing well for Ghana? 2 wins and a loss is doing exceptionally well. More than that is out of this world. You must remember the manner on which they qualified into the World Cup. Okay, they beat South Africa with a controversial penalty, went to Nigeria, won away from home, got through. Okay, so they're not at their finest in terms of form. So for them, their projection of doing well is different. If they win 2 games and get into the last 16, wow, brilliant for the country. Brilliant. Not just for the country, for the continent. Hands down, for the continent. This is why they're looking at maximum impact, get in as much quality as possible. Because Lamptey, Francis, please correct me. Lamptey is born in England, am I correct?
yes,
Lamptey he could have played for England at right back, not at this World Cup. His possibility is coming. His possibility is coming. He is not a flat battery. That is a very good player.
you make a very good point. And I think these friendlies that we are going to see over the coming days, the thing that I find interesting about them is the locations. The French, again, have proven to be great hosts to their African friends, so to speak, and their economy will get a nice little boost from these amazing games like Ghana against Brazil at Le Havre. I believe even the Senegalese are playing Bolivia in France. Uh, but the Cameroonians are getting on a plane and flying all the way to South Korea to play uh, Son from Tottenham and his friends over there. And we also have a game against Uzbekistan, which I struggle to understand its relevance in terms of the teams we will be up against. But I understand it was arranged by the South Koreans, to whom both Costa Rica and Cameroon, who they invited to play them, because they play in Cameroon because they have a game against Ghana, for example. And I was speaking with Chris, who's playing Brazil, who playing Ghana because they have a game against Cameroon. Everybody has a reason why they're playing each other. But I think it'll be a nice opportunity to check out some of these new young lads who are not flat batteries, like Courtney says. But the locations of the game I find interesting, and I hope another day we will find the chance to talk about why we don't host any friendly games in our home countries and invite some of these superstars and great nations. Imagine Neymar flying into Accra for a game this week, and it would have been something amazing for the Ghanaians, an opportunity to see some of these superstars up close. But somehow we always choose the option where the other person's picking up the tab, and then they call the shots in terms of where we're going. So we'll leave that at that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a real shame that we haven't seen, particularly when we have, countries like Senegal unveiling these, brand new shiny stadiums. It would be amazing for them to host some of these games. And, to a certain extent, there's a lot of an argument saying, oh, they want to do it in Europe because that's where the players play. Then why is, Cameroon having to go to South Korea? It's nowhere near.
And we've just built a whole bunch of stadia for the African Cup of Nations,
Exactly.
and we're not using it. And you're like, we qualify for the World Cup. Why don't you use this infrastructure and invite some people over here and make use of them and have the population get to see them? Have the Senegalese do the same over there. Have the Ghanaians do the same in their space. Have the Moroccans, even Morocco, who are close by, are playing in Spain. They're friendly, and you're like, come on. I'm like, is anybody going to play at home? Yeah, it bothers me.
So you mind if I just come in there, and I'm going to follow on from something Alasdair actually told us during, I think, the African Nations Cup for Women. The facilities in Morocco, Alasdair, I think you alluded to them being some of the best.
Absolutely.
So how does a country like that, with that level of facility, not be able to attract a team like Spain? Because let's be honest, you can drive from Morocco to Spain. It's not a far distance, Why is Spain not going the other way? Francis, you mentioned a very valid point in preparation for the African Nations Cup. Cameroon built these beautiful stadiums. Why have they now had to travel out? Uzbekistan, are they in the World Cup?
Oh, sure.
No, so hold on. So why not give them the opportunity to go to Africa and play Cameroon?
And I think this is a conversation that we need to have, because we really, the politics of the friendly space is very, very political. But the economics is always wrong, because our African federations are always looking for the other person to underwrite the trip. So South Korea, I assure you, for the Cameroonian Federation is zero cost. So the South Koreans would foot the bill and will bring you over and host you and everything. And we need to stop putting our money where our mouths are, or at least where our dreams are.
Yeah, 100%. Courtney, I was thinking exactly what you said. I was thinking, like Morocco has the fantastic facilities. There is absolutely no reason why they especially wouldn't be hosting. And, it's a big surprise that particularly them, I would have thought that there was a lot more of an interest, to go there, both its proximity to Europe, as well as the, connections to Qatar. But I wanted to ask you guys as well on this is, you mentioned, team Brazil playing Ghana, in preparation for playing Cameroon, or, and how you guys feel about this, countries. It's almost, there's no, I feel like in most other areas of life, we really fight to avoid stereotyping. But when it comes to football, we fully embrace it. And, every big team is looking to play a team from the same continent. Do you feel like a friendly against Ghana will prepare you for a World Cup match against Cameroon more than, a game against, whoever, Switzerland or something like that? Why are we saying, you play one African country, you're prepared to play every other African country? You've played one Asian country, you can play another Asian country. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, prejudice and stereotypes still inform our everyday operations. That's the sad reality of it. Um, I think maybe it's lazy thinking sometimes, because I know, like in the Cameroonian press, the first question was, why is Cameroon playing South Korea? It wasn't a question of like, this is a really good team, and the coach had to come out to explain that they play fast football, they're super fit, and for us it'll be a real test. And but everybody was just like, well, we're not playing any teams from that part of the world, so what's the point of? And you're like, no, it's not really the way it works, But um, I think as commentators and observers, as opposed to participants like Courtney, who has played the game, I think it's hard not to be prejudicial, because you might tend it's lazy, like I said, off the off, um, but it's the way we do things in general, because it's easier marketing. It's an easy thing to show your population that you're preparing for something, because this is a form of it's a civil war that you're engaging with. It's very polite, but the nation has to rally around the cause. And so sometimes I think a lot of the teams are chosen more as a play to the audience, speaking more to a nation why they need to get excited and get behind their country and wave their flags. And so it gets a little bit tribal. And in that tribal sense, inadvertently, the prejudices come to the fore.
In a way, Francis, you've answered part of my question as well. I think all these fixtures are very heavily financially driven as well. There is an element of preparing the team. I don't disagree with that, because the team has to go and play, settle in an environment. There is an element of also letting the team gel together and build some level of team spirit. That is the norm. That happens anyway. But there's also the financial element to it as well. Like, for example, you guys knew and know my rant I had a few months ago about South Africa going to France to play France, Bafana. Up to today, I don't know what were they doing there. South Africa hasn't qualified for a COSAFA Cup or an African Nations Cup in years, but they're going to play the world champions in France. Aimless fixtures happen because of people's greed and desire to be on the same pitch as as the superstars, number one, and there's a money aspect as well. I'm sure the French Federation offered South Africa good money to come over. They didn't go and play there for free. So we're in a money-driven climate. We got to understand that decisions sometimes are made minus football decisions. Do they always make sense? No.
Well, I promised I would keep it short for Zayn. Otherwise, he'll be on my back telling me off when he finds out how long the podcast has run. So we'll keep it short. That listener, if you've been listening to this and you disagree with Courtney or Francis, I totally understand. But if you do, hit us up on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, @OTW_podcast, as well as you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at On the Whistle Podcast. And write to us. Tell us how you feel. Do you think that it's right for Ghana to be recruiting some of these players and in their preparations to the World Cup, or do you think that they should have stuck with those who got them there, who played in those matches against Nigeria and Ghana? And how do you feel about these final friendlies that we're coming into, the final moment to prepare? Boys, I'm going to ask you for one more question. We'll do a full preview podcast and we'll do a lot more content on the World Cup. But I'm asking for a one-word answer. Which African team is going to go furthest? And I want an unbiased answer. I'm particularly looking at you, Francis, who I'm sure has a bias in this. But let's hear it, boys. What team is going to go to the furthest in the World Cup?
I think the Senegalese team are best equipped to go the furthest of our lot. But I think the Moroccans have a tremendous ability to put up a good show if they continue in the spirit in which they turned up recently. But the patriot in me hopes that the Cameroonian team can get their act together and just have 4 good games. If they have 4 good games, you're knocking on the doors of the semifinals. It's as simple as that.
For me, it's Morocco. I just think I enjoyed watching them during the African Nations Cup. I think Morocco, out of all the teams, will go the furthest.
This is I love it. A trademark answer from both of you. Francis with his kind of diplomatic hat on, giving me 3 answers in one, and Courtney coming out hard with 1 answer. Well, thank you so much, boys.
It's easy for him. There's no South Africa there.
Courtney he's just quit the call. He's lost it. He's too angry now. Well, thank you, boys. It's been enjoyable doing this without the big man Zayn, but hopefully he will be back next week. Thank you so much, guys.
Take care, Alasdair. Lovely to see you.